This is Adam Watson.
And Robert Diaz.
You're listening to the Darkslinger Mafia podcast. This is our big 26 episode. It's the first part of the road to 50 episodes.
Lucky number 26.
So, got some more convention news. So I was invited to the author days at the Hillsborough Public Library on September 22nd this week.
Is that the thing that someone wanted to talk to you about at the con when we were there?
Yeah, that's what they took my information down for when we were at the library Comic Con that happened in February. That was in February, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So when we were there, the gentleman who was running the library Comic Con had asked me if I had any interest in taking part in their author days when they came up in September. And, I said absolutely and gave him my information. So they contacted this week to state that the date's going to be September 22nd. Anyone who's interested in taking part, go ahead and get in touch with them. Fill out their form, and it had a section about if you want to be on panels as well. So I also chose 2 panels that I'll hopefully be on, which are comics and graphic novels, because obviously that's an easy fit, right? And then the other one was, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was basically like if you're a horror or sci-fi writer. So it was like writing in genres that are more fringe genres, although horror is one of the biggest genres these days. At least seems that way.
It's gotten more popular. It's still not quite mainstream.
Yeah, but it is in a lot of ways. There's so much mainstream stuff that uses horror tropes at the very least,
Yeah, people have taken from it to add into these shows and movies these days.
Yeah.
So it's becoming more of an
And
accepted
it's so much
thing.
bigger than just like monsters or slashers at this point.
But that's still classic horror right there.
Yeah. There's a lot of good horror movies coming out this year and next year too. Or what look like good horror movies anyway.
I just saw one.
Which one?
A Quiet Place.
A Quiet Place. I haven't heard of that yet.
John something or other. The guy, he was in The Office.
Okay, I never watched The Office.
Neither did I. I just know that he was in there.
Okay.
And he's got
The only 2 I know that were in that was Steve Carell and
Rainn Wilson.
Rainn Wilson, yeah.
He's one of the guys in it. He gets with some chick in there.
Okay.
I think they're the cute couple in it. I don't actually know. Couldn't tell you. Didn't watch it.
Uh-huh.
But he directed and starred in this movie, and he helped write the screenplay. But I don't think he wrote the actual thing itself. And I don't know how movies work.
Fair enough.
And all that. But it was pretty good. It was a interesting take on these things. There are these monsters, and they can find they seem to have killed off a whole lot of people in the world, almost everybody, and they find you based on like the littlest noise, like us talking. We wouldn't be able to talk. They use sign language.
Oh, I have heard of that. Yeah, I just didn't know what the name of it was.
Yeah, it's called A Quiet Place, and I thought that was interesting. You have to walk quietly, like they lay sand in the areas that they walk, so they can walk quietly.
And sand helps them. Okay.
Yeah, it dampens the sound.
Right.
That was one of the big things.
So it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah, it was a lot more solid than I expected it to be.
The one I am
monster kind of movie.
Are looking forward to the most coming out this year is the Purge prequel. I absolutely love the Purge trilogy.
I didn't know that they were doing a prequel to it.
Yeah, so the guy who wrote and directed the first 3 is actually stepping back to a producer credit for this one.
I didn't know the same person did them all either.
But yeah, the same guy did them all. He's still heavily involved, but he's heavily involved as a producer, and he's letting somebody else take over the writing and directorial duties. But he has been stating for quite a while that if The Purge went long enough as a movie series, you would eventually see the first Purge. And this one takes place in, I think it's Manhattan, because they chose Manhattan because it's an island where, it can get
so
fairly
densely populated.
Densely populated and get fairly isolated fairly quickly.
Yes.
And since the point in the movies is kind of this whole, there's this overarching narrative where the Purge is really about getting rid of the poor in degenerative societies, And so Manhattan, from what I understand, has quite a bit of that. So I've never been there, so I can't say for a fact.
I don't know. It's
But-
always seemed like it has a lot of people and it's very diverse.
Yeah, but they have quite the homeless population there, don't they? I could be
I don't
totally
know.
wrong. Who knows?
In a huge city like that,
In any case, the Purge
It has
movies
to
have always had a lot to do with like weeding out homeless people and things like that.
yeah.
So it makes sense that in a big city that's fairly easy to isolate, where there's a lot of people, this would be the first place it'd happen, right? But in any case, this is the original Purge, and it was basically like laying the foundation down to see how it worked in one city before they moved it to the whole country.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So
I
this takes
didn't-
place well before
I like
any
that.
of the events in the
I-
first three movies.
I didn't see the third one, the election year.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good. It was so much more topical because
It fit perfectly.
right, since they actually released it on the election year.
And right around the 4th of July, if not on it.
They did release it on the 4th of July. I believe that this one is being released on the 4th of July too.
I kind of like that, the way that
I
they've
do
done
too.
that.
I do too.
We could do a whole
I will
podcast
say
about
that-
horror movies.
Yeah, we easily could. Election year, when I'd seen the previews, I was afraid it was just going to be too much of like a Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton thing.
Oh god, that'd be
But I will say the bad guys were more likable than Trump, and the woman was way more likable than Hillary Clinton. So while you related it somewhatly to both of them, quite a bit in some instances, all in all, the people who acted in the movie were so much more likable than our actual candidates that it didn't matter.
Should have just went with that crazy Greenpeace guy or whatever the hell he was, the Green Party.
Oh, God. I thought the Greenpeace during the last election was... You're not talking about a guy because it was a woman that ran for
then
Greenpeace. You're talking about Gary Johnson for the
Is he
Libertarian Party, I think.
Or was he libertarian? And you know what? I don't know.
Gary Johnson was Libertarian.
It was Gary Johnson, and he was just
Because
such an
I
idiot.
would have really liked to have voted for a Libertarian, but unfortunately...
Oh yeah, that's what he was.
Yeah, he didn't know, like, any laws.
He didn't know what a lot of things were.
Which, you know...
He didn't know what a lot.
Hey, we could talk politics all night, too, and we're trying to keep politics out of this podcast.
Yeah, why are we bringing that up?
I don't know. In any case, election year is really good. I recommend checking it out. If you liked the first two, you'll like this one, too.
I did. They were good.
And so I'm pretty excited for this one coming out. And in horror news, it's actually somewhatly related to what the topic of our podcast is. I saw this week on Facebook that Paul Johnson, who is the artist on El Bovine Muerte, is having a short movie made based off his property Razor Bastard. So congratulations there, Paul.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yay!
So we're proud of you, man.
Live action?
Yeah, it looks like it's live action. I don't know. I don't have any details yet. I've just
okay.
seen the pictures he's posted that have, like, you know, he's posted photos of the camera and he's posted photos of the guy who's directing it. And I know the guy who's directing it. It's IMDb credits. It looks like he's done a lot of short independent horror movies. So I'm guessing it's going to be a short, but I'm only guessing that based off what the guy's done. The guy who's listed on IMDb as being the star of it is the really big dude in both the Sherlock Holmes movies. Who in real life I know was either a boxer or a cage fighter. I can't remember which. And then he became an actor. He's mainly just played like the big rough guy in movies. That's been his role. But that'll make him fit in perfect for Razor Bastard because that's basically the whole character. So
I don't recall that guy.
he's fighting Sherlock Holmes in the beginning. And you know I'm talking about the Robert Downey Jr. movies.
Yeah.
Okay. He's fighting him at the beginning of one of the movies in the ring. And he's like going through everything in his head and saying, if I hit him here, this is going to happen.
I remember the fight, but
It's that guy.
I just can't. I'll look it up later.
Okay, yeah. In any case, he's this huge dude. Razor Bastard, the way Paul draws him, he's this huge hulking beast of a man. So
Fits in.
yeah, it fits in. And so it looks like the guy that's directing it primarily does like extreme type horror movies. And that's what Paul did for the comic Razor Bastard. So, you know, seems like it's going to fit perfectly.
Good for him.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Paul.
Well, I guess maybe we should steer back towards
Yeah.
Hillsborough.
Let's go back to that. Okay.
Yeah. What exactly is this? Like you say, you're going to be on panels.
Okay, so most libraries, even our one in Malala, which I actually need to talk to them about getting on the one here too, as long as it doesn't conflict with any of the cons I'm doing. Most of them do an appreciation sort of day, I think is what most of them call it, for local authors. And what they do is they bring in a bunch of different authors from the area, which obviously it doesn't have to be, the specific town you live in, otherwise I wouldn't be going to Hillsborough, right?
Yeah, it's just like a general local area.
General area. Brings them in for one day. You can set up there, you can do signing, meet and greet with the folks, just like we did at the Library Comic Con. So basically in that way it works just like any Comic Con. They do panels throughout the day, they do activities just like they did for their Comic Con, except for instead of this one being specific to comics, it's specific to writers in general. So anyone that writes prose novels or anything like that, and I'm assuming it will be a mixture of people who have been published by bigger companies as well as self-published authors.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Little thing for the local people.
Mm-hmm.
That's always good. It helps for the local artists, and it helps for the local people to see who writes this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. I haven't been involved in one of these quite yet. I just found out Malala did one because I asked them after having been at the Hillsborough Comic Con. Malala Library is like 6 blocks away from me, and
well, then I bet that Oregon City would do it too. And
they do.
In Canby.
They do. Oregon City does both that, and they do a comic day, but it's called Zine-posium. And so if it's focused on zines, I'm sure I would do well there, because I don't think every single person who goes to the library that day is going to care if you're producing zines or if you're producing comics. But if it's what they're putting the focus on, I don't expect an invite. You know what I mean? Because I don't create zines. I create full-on comics and graphic novels. And I'm sure there are a lot of people there who do comics, graphic novels that also do zines. But there are some comic creators who only do zines. They don't actually produce like the professionally printed comics or graphic novels or anything like that. They specifically do zines, and that's what they do. So I never checked into the Oregon City one enough to know, and the last time they had that event, it conflicted with a Frankenstein. Well, and so I was like, I'd take a risk on this or go to Frankenstein and know what to expect. I'll do Frankenstein, But if they do that again this year, I might get in contact with them.
Maybe it's see changed about a bit with the new location that they're in.
It might have, and well, this was just last year, so they were already in a new location. Okay. More than anything, it was just me feeling like I didn't want to intrude. In an event that they had for a specific section of comics that I don't belong in. You know what I mean? Or not that I don't belong in, but that I don't create it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like if they were doing a event that was for comic creators, but it was for comic creators who've worked on cartoon adaptations of Nickelodeon cartoons, like I don't feel that I need to take Darkslinger products there. You know what I'm saying?
But still, you can get them on the shelves there if you can.
Well, if I want to get them on the shelves there, all I need to do is have an ISBN and show up and give them a copy.
Well, then why don't you do that?
I will be when I do the hardcover editions of Chronicles of Von Helsing. I'm planning on giving one copy to several libraries. Here's the thing, though. The way libraries work is each library has its own budget for buying books, right? But when you've put something at one of the libraries, it goes into their entire system. So if I put something in, say, Malala, that's Malala's copy. They put it in, but they put it into the library system. And so Oregon City, someone can check it out there. Or Clackamas, Gladstone, Canby,
because Clackamas County's libraries are all connected.
Right. Well, here's the whole thing is that they actually promote the books for the first 2 weeks that they're brand new.
Oh, that's cool.
So in those 2 weeks, it shows up on the main pages of the library website. And I don't know that it works this way with every single library in existence. I just know it does with our local library system. The whole thing is my local librarian told me if I give them copies of my work, don't give them more than one copy. Because if it gets put in, they show it on their main page as something that's new, and say 20 people put it on hold, it will show them that there's increased demand for it, and they will end up buying a copy from me in order to meet that demand for the readership.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's cool, you can actually sell. Yeah, exactly. So you can actually sell additional copies to libraries if you're smart about how you give out copies. So of course, I'll give copies of the Hillsborough Public Library. They already hosted me for one event. They're generous enough to have me back for another.
And they're a pretty badass library.
And they're an awesome library. They've, more than earned me giving them free copies, like if there was any question about that before, there definitely wouldn't be now. Not that there would have been anyway, because I'd gladly give free copies to any library that needed them. But our local library, it's got very small funding.
Yeah.
So out of all the libraries in our general area, I would rather give it to the Molalla Public Library than say like the Oregon City one that has way more funding than the Molalla one does.
I haven't been into that library yet.
It is an awesome library. It's more like you're going into a bookstore than a library. With the way they have it all set up and the big open windows, and they have all these. The only thing, honestly, that the Oregon City Library has up on the Hillsborough one is that the areas to read are way more plush. They put some super nice reading areas in the Oregon City one. Yeah, but I would say the Oregon City one was the nicest library I'd been in until I was in the Hillsborough one. I'm not counting the Multnomah Public Library because that's more like a big city, like a huge city library, It's a little bit different, a little bit more upscale, But the Hillsborough one, that's an awesome place. So I'm very excited to be returning there.
My girlfriend really wants to check out the Oregon City Library because
you should go there
because she's nerdy in a book way, which is great.
And if you guys go there, ask them when their author days are, so I know.
Date night at the library. Mm-hmm. I'd be cool with that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
She'd be cool with that.
It is a great place. 2 stories, and you won't run out of things to do there. That's for sure. And you got a really nice area if you just want to sit there and start reading things to see what you're interested in. I grabbed a stack of graphic novels, sat down, read the first issue of a bunch of them to find one I was into.
Oh, she will. Put her in a room with books and she's happy.
Right? And that's the greatest thing about library books, as far as graphic novels go, is you can just read the first issue, and if it doesn't grab you, put it back. No biggie.
That is great.
Yeah.
Because
it takes 10 minutes to read the first issue of most comics. If it doesn't grab you, go ahead and put it back. You've wasted 10 minutes. Big deal.
And no money.
No money. Exactly.
Support your local libraries.
Right. And there have been a lot of things that some really big names have done that I thought, I'm going to love this, right? But I was so glad I checked out of the library instead of buying.
Yeah.
Because it turns out, no, I wasn't going to love it or enjoy it.
Because you don't want to waste your money on things like Colder.
No. I'm glad that Alex bought that for you. And I borrowed your copy instead of reading that directly.
My dad enjoyed it.
Hey, that's good. That's good.
He even wanted the second issue.
Yeah, well, I'm sure all the Comic Cons we go to, you'll probably find it for him eventually for $1. So
he'd be into it.
It'd be worth $1 just to look at the artwork.
Oh yeah, the artwork is gorgeous.
Yeah, the artwork was fantastic. I love the artwork. It was the writing I thought was flawed in that.
Yeah,
and flawed is honestly putting it very nicely.
It's unfortunate, but you can't knock an artist for that.
No, the art was spectacular, but
it's so creepy.
We're not here to knock on anybody anyway, so we'll switch topics. So switching topics to my next convention, or at least I believe it'll be my next convention. You never know, something might pop up between now and then. But WinCon, happening on April 21st, I was asked to be on a panel there as well.
Oh, nice. What's that panel for?
It is how to create comics and graphic novels. I got the first summary that had some questions. I'm going to make some suggestions. I think that we should be incorporating things about Kickstarter and things like that into it.
How to create in what way? Is it
it just seems to be kind of a general overview. That's the thing. A
little bit of this and that.
Yeah, that's the thing about being on panels is even when you get the cliff notes about what they're going to be on,
you still have an audience that's going to ask things.
Well, number one, you do at times, but number two, what you think the questions are going to be, they'll have changed by the time you get there, And so I never worry too much about what the panel is going to be until about 10 minutes before I'm actually on it. And then I kind of just have a quick chat with my fellow panelists if I can. Get a good summary, Sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. Ben and I did a panel together at the Northwest Comics Fest a few years ago in Salem. And we thought there was going to be another guy on the panel. He decided not to join in. So it was just the two of us. And we didn't really know what we were supposed to be talking about. So we're just kind of sitting there and we're just kind of rambling, introducing ourselves, right? And there's only like 7 people who came for the panel. Whatever, it's okay. There wasn't that many people in attendance. And so we actually thought 7 people was a good number. But we're kind of rambly, just, talking. And we kept really pushing the audience for questions. When you're on panels, it sucks at times because you've kind of ran out of things to say. And when you ask people for questions, you're putting them on the spot if it appears that you've ran out of questions and there's still like 20 minutes left in this thing.
Yeah, it can
because
be
then it's like you start
something.
looking at the audience and like, oh, that person looks like they have a question, so I'm going to zero in on them. I probably just really made that person uncomfortable putting them on the spot, but it does, at times, it will kind of make somebody ask a question that they really do want the answer to, And other times, you're just awkwardly putting a stranger on the spot for no good reason. But, whatever the case. So, I don't recognize the names of my fellow panelists on this one, but I'm sure once I get to the con, I'll be able to have a conversation with them and we'll be able to put together whatever. And we're currently in a group email, so I'll be sending an email that has some of my ideas for it. But it'll be a moderated panel, the whole bit, so we'll have somebody that's up there asking us a question. So I don't think we'll trudge for it too difficultly.
A moderator seems easiest for a panel.
Yeah.
I think of the few that I've seen in the professional ones that I've listened to from like big cons and things.
Moderators work well. The panels I've been on, I've been pretty fortunate overall because the people that I've been on them have been really nice for the most part and really easy to get along with. I was on a panel at one show. I'm not going to mention what show. But I was on a panel at one show that was very weird. The person I was on it with, we had never met. And they obviously were not happy with me right when it started because I had signed somebody's stuff that came up to the panel table before we were ready to start speaking. I didn't view it as a big deal, but I don't think they were happy. And I don't know that that was the whole reason. They may just not have liked me in general. But it kind of felt like when the questions were going back and forth between the two of us, that there was some form of animosity against me, and I don't know exactly what it was.
Your face.
It could have very well been my face. I don't know. But it had kind of like, I thought the panel overall went really well. But it had a little bit different of a vibe than what I'm used to with panels because it just felt like the person I was doing it with didn't like me.
I can see how that would make it difficult. To be able to talk to someone.
Yeah. And of course, it's so much easier when you actually know the people you're going to be paneling with.
Yeah, you can bounce off of them.
Yeah.
When you talk.
Like if I'm on a panel with Ben, it's perfectly fine. We know exactly how to work off each other. We throw in something informative and then Ben sets himself up as a joke about something and I make the joke, the audience laughs. It's all good.
Ice is broken.
He calls me a bully, then we get back to the informative stuff, It works well.
You got a formula.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm still trying to write out my list of all the cons that I want to go to. I still am working on writing out my formula, or not my formula, but my list for all the cons that I want to do this year. So there's so friggin' many of them, like always. In so little time, but I'm still planning on doing multiple Kickstarters this year, and I'm trying to make sure that I have enough time left to myself to get this Kickstarter fully fulfilled. But I did get some pretty good news about the cost of the show that I had been thinking about doing that I mentioned in the previous podcast.
Do you want to touch briefly on Kickstarter before you jump to that?
There's not really a lot to touch on. I've got some messages from my printers this week. But it's mainly just like, hey, did you mean this size or this size? You said this paper, but are you sure you really meant that paper? Sort of questions.
Confirmation check.
Yeah, and you know that as long as you're getting those kind of questions, they're getting close to producing the product, but it hasn't started yet. And so it's always kind of an aggravating sort of middle ground to be in. Like, you place the order, but the order isn't actually anywhere yet. I'm glad for the questions, though, because I found out that they had me going with a glossy interior, which I do not like for comics. So I got that fixed to an uncoated stock. And so I understand fully that the standard today is that new comics come out with glossy interior pages. It's not a look I like. Especially because if I'm reading in a room that has like an overhead light, it always shines off the page. And that's annoying.
That's
you know?
annoying. Plus,
Yeah.
I think it depends on the comic.
Yeah, I think so too.
Your stuff is darker. You want a darker tone to it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it lays in better on uncoated paper.
You can't have blood and someone dying and it's just all bright and shiny and happy.
Exactly. But I really like gloss covers with uncoated interiors, you know?
Yeah, I think you got a glossy cover. Is kind of a great
And
thing
then
to
for
look
the
at.
trade paperbacks, I like to stick with the uncoated paper, but upgrade to a nice thicker stock, you know? And I think the only things I like glossy interior paper in actually is hardcovers. Like if I pick up an omnibus edition, it's this big fat thing. For some reason, I just expect there's going to be glossy stock inside, you know? And I would be kind of weirdly disappointed if there wasn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
You want everything to be all nice.
yeah, I
and
want it to
shiny
be like a
and cool.
prestige presentation.
Yes.
But I don't think that every single comic that comes out needs to have all these super expensive options. And generally, when you do it with upgrades like glossy paper instead of uncoated, you know, it adds a good 10 to 15 cents per issue. It's unnecessary, especially when I personally think uncoated looks better. I found out that for the digital editions, I had went back through and reread everything in the quote. I had checked it after they had got me the quote, you know, and told them they had never actually updated the specs of what I wanted. And they had it going through with 12-point laminated gloss covers. And I was like, no, I told you 85-pound gloss covers. Here's the email where I said that. Da, da, da. So we've kind of gone back and forth about that a little bit, right? But I know that probably means nothing to you. But
Yeah.
85-pound gloss cover is what you would standardly kind of see in most comics that are produced today, right? That's pretty normal cover.
I can imagine it.
12-point gloss with lamination is what you would see on a really rigid trade paperback.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want that on my single issue.
No. So you're talking about something incredibly stiff going on a 32-page book.
Yeah, I want that in something thicker.
Most trades that you get have less than that. Most of them have like 10-point gloss, and not all of them are laminated. When you add in the lamination, it stiffens it up severely. And so like 12-point stock laminated, that's so overkill. So I was like, you know, that's not what this is supposed to be. They told me that it's going to be cheaper to go with the 12-point laminated than it would the 85-pound, which I find really weird and think that the only reason for that must be is that they overbought that paper. And now they're having a hard time selling it. But I was like, look, I don't care. Just, you know, it's 2 cents more an issue. This is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I don't want that 12-point.
It wouldn't look good.
No,
It
it
wouldn't
wouldn't.
feel good.
No, so the cover for it would actually be thicker than the cover for Who Will Save the World. If I let them produce it like that, right?
I only want to see a cover like that on something that's thicker than that, so it holds it better.
Right.
Better.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm all about giving, you know, things that are prestige nature, a prestige presentation. But
Yeah.
my single issues don't need so much presentation that I can sell them for $5.99 because I have no intention of selling them for $5.99.
There's no new comic that I would ever pay that much for a single issue.
I would maybe if it were like a 100-page special.
Okay, that, but like a normal,
Maybe even an 80-page special I could see.
a normal thing. There's very few things that I would want to pay that much for
And
a
see,
single issue.
it would actually depend because it would be like, is it an 80-page or even a 64-page special that has all new material? Or is it one of those where you get 12 pages of new material and all the rest of it is reprints from the last 30 years of publication?
That sounds like the old switcheroo.
That's what Marvel and DC are like notorious for, though, is, you know, all of a sudden they release like the big 700th issue of Amazing Spider-Man or whatever, right? And it's like a $9.99 book. And you get like 12 or 20 pages of new content and everything else is like retrospectives and, you know, stories that are like the greatest and da-da-da-da. I can get why you'd want those, but to me it's like, put those in an annual or a trade paperback or something like that. I don't want to see them in my main stories. And if I collected Amazing Spider-Man issues, I'd be pissed off to have to spend $10 just to have the solid run.
I'd be pissed off that I had a bunch of comics that I was collecting. They're just taking up room.
Obviously, I don't get pissed off over that.
Anyways, circle back again.
Okay.
To local next show.
Mm-hmm. Well, my next show is going to be WinCon. You know that.
Kind of local in a general global sense.
Well, it's only 7 hours away. That's not too bad.
That's quite the drive, though.
Yeah, but we live on the West Coast. Everything's a drive over here.
You're right. Closer to home show.
Closer to home. There are actually a few different shows I'm looking at, but I found out the Rust-Rom was only $25 for a booth. So,
that's a damn good price.
Yeah. I had been wanting to do that show. Floyd's been recommending it for quite some time. And it looks interesting. And when I saw it was only $25, I was like, even if I don't make a single sell, not $25, and I'm somewhere that I go around and look at like rat rods and, bikes and stuff. So I'm still perfectly fine with that. So
I got a leather vest. That seemed like the perfect time to wear it.
You have a leather vest?
I got it from the clothing sale. I couldn't say no to this nice old lady because she was giving me these clothes that were pretty nice, and I just felt like, okay, I'm not going to say no. I'm probably not going to wear it because who the hell wears a leather vest? Not me.
Right.
It doesn't fit my style. But if I were to, there's the place.
Yeah, you could. I feel like that might go over okay at Crypticon too.
When is that show?
It's in July.
The Rat Rod show?
Yeah, Rust-Rama.
Yeah.
It's in July. Yeah, so I put an email to him asking about, their application process. So I'm not in yet. It's not an official announcement, but I am planning on doing it as long as I can get a booth there. And since it's only $25, why not,
Oh, yeah. Is it a big show, do you know?
I don't know. It's at the Oregon State Fairgrounds. So it potentially could be.
They have some buildings that are pretty big there.
They do. And it really depends on what they're renting. Too. And yeah, I think it's an outside show.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
Place.
I've seen pictures of Floyd's table from it last year, and it looked sizable. But as well as I do, smaller events are perfectly okay too. So.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm making a list, and there's just like tons of shows. There's the show in Medford, and then Versus Con that happens at the beach. I'd really like to go there, and I want a free pass for that one. For entry, not for table, obviously.
I think a beach show would be pretty cool.
I think it would be too, because even if you don't end up doing spectacularly at the show, you're at the beach all weekend.
As long as I have that weekend open, you get that one. I call dibs on the beach.
Okay, you call dibs on that one?
Yeah.
Sorry, Elias. Versus I would still like to do. And then there's the Diller shows that I want to do too, like round 2 for this year, Frankenstein, the Eugene Sasquatch show, Fantasticon in Tacoma. I'd really like to go do again. But as I stated earlier this year, or at the end of last year when we did the final podcast of the year, doing shows as Darkslinger has to take precedence over reselling stuff.
Yes.
And so I'm trying to line up what all's happening on those weekends, because there are some weekends where there's like 3 different shows in our general area. And I'm not including like, WinCon and Medford is exactly our general area, but there's still considerations you have to take about what you can gain from driving that far, that are all happening on the same day. So, it's like I said last time, Cherry City Comic Con is the same weekend as WinCon. But I'm choosing to drive 7 hours to go to WinCon instead of driving 40 minutes to go to Cherry City.
It seems like the better bet.
I think it is.
Considering how you did before.
Yeah, I think it is.
And I don't know the price difference, but I bet it's
a tremendous price difference. Doing WinCon, even with the drive time, is about the third the cost of doing Cherry City.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it wouldn't be if I were just doing Artist Alley, but with as much stuff as I have to sell, it seems pointless to do Artist Alley if I can get an exhibitor instead, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so Cherry City would literally cost me like 3 times as much.
Fuck.
And I don't think the flow of traffic makes it any better to do.
No. Go where you know.
Yeah.
Where you have a better
and
idea.
I'm really considering going back to Lilac City Comic Con this year.
I don't know that.
Okay, so way back in like 2009, 2010, even 2008, I think.
All years before I knew you.
Yeah. There was this show that had just started up that was called the Spokane Comic Con. And a way that we used to do things quite frequently is like if this show was coming up in Ty's area, and it was like $50 for a table, I might buy like 2 tables and be like, hey, this is your spot, and hey, Alan, this is your spot, and the 3 of us are just going to be in these 2 tables that are together, right? We're just going to kind of split the area up between the 3 of us. Ty would be coming down here and he'd be like, hey, I bought these tables, and, you know, bring Alan along. It's going to be like the 3 of us in the spot, right? And, of course, Alan never did. No, I'm just joking. In any case, you know, it wasn't uncommon for us to do this. Well, we had set up at Spokane the first year, and, man, it was a bitch of a show for me to do, because I am a total whiny bitch when it comes to heat. And it's like 116 degrees. And this building is not air conditioned. It's horrible. I'm sweaty, but the sweat's immediately drying up, and I'm complainy bitch, right? Ty's thinking I'm mad all day. I'm like, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad that the sun's out. Of course, everybody over there is used to it because, you know, they live in the desert. They're used to the heat.
Yeah, you get...
I'm like, this is horrible. How can you people stand this? But we made quite a bit of money at the show, right? So we went back the second year, you know, had a good time. And this year, it was like unseasonably cold. It's a point where like you went outside and you wanted to wear something to protect you from it just about snowing, right? Same time of year. So it's pretty weird. But whatever, that happens even here at times.
Yeah.
So, you know, we make way more money, and I love it so much more because it's cold versus hot. I can totally deal with the cold. I cannot deal at all with the heat, right? Third year we do it, and it was a little bit different because Ty had a prior commitment with some other people at the show. So it was like him coming over to our table constantly, but it was just Alan and I, you know, at our table. But we made a lot of money. There were people there who seemed like they were returning fans, which is always something you want, you know, and that's like a big part of the reason to do a show in the same area again and again, is so that you give your your fans in the area a chance to come see you. And at that time, this was the last year that it was called, I think, just the Spokane Comic Con, I think is all it was called. And it was in a college building. The year after that, they upped it to a 2-day event and changed the name to the Lilac City Comic Con and moved it from being at a college campus to an actual convention center in Spokane. So they upped the scale of it tremendously. Unfortunately, that's also the same year Ty died. So I ended up not doing it as Lilac City Comic Con. Been 7 years now. Ty died on April 3rd. So April 3rd was marked 7 years since he passed. And I haven't been back to Spokane since. I'd like to give it a go again. I'd like to show up in that area again. I'd actually like to see if I could convince Alan into going with me.
That'd be cool.
I think it'd be nice if you could.
Go back to where y'all once were.
Yeah. So Alan and I, of course, rode together when you and George went with us at Crypticon.
Yeah.
But before that, the last road trip Alan and I took together was doing a show that was about an hour away from where Ty's family lives. And we stayed with them the night before. We did this road trip. And it kind of felt like, in ways, it was the last road trip for Alan and I going together to do cons, because he's not doing cons as much anymore. Now he does gallery shows more. And I've got so much damn product out these days that I don't do table splits anymore. And I used to, you know. So that was the last time we had done a road trip together. It'd be really nice to do another road trip with Alan if I can convince him to go.
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
Throwback.
Yeah. And, you know, just go and do the show where...
Except
you know,
now you're a couple of old dudes. All gray.
Oh, no kidding, right? It's been almost a decade since then.
Damn.
Yeah. But it would be nice. It'd be nice to go do.
What's that one?
That happens later in the year. That's July also, I think. Then Lilac is having its own junior show in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. That's happening in October. And Coeur d'Alene's another town in that area. I'm sure you have no idea where it's at.
Nope.
But it's in that general vicinity over there, like 7 hours away. So who knows? Maybe I'll even go do that show.
That's a lot of driving.
It is, but I'm planning on releasing several issues of Ghost Assassin this year. As soon as I have everything straightened out with my printers. I'm planning on doing a lot of Kickstarters this year. And I made a commitment to really get back to doing cons last year. We did 14 last year, right? That was the total number?
I don't remember.
Okay, I'm pretty positive that when we count them all up at the end of the podcast last year, it was 14. We've done 3 or 4 this year.
We did one. We did the Hillsboro.
The Hillsboro, the I Like Comic Con.
Yeah, that was the not so great one, right?
That was a horrid one. You did Frankenstein.
You had Frankenstein. There was one other, I thought.
There was one other?
Did you do one other with Elias?
I'm trying to think, because they all blend together after a while.
3 or 4 so far.
I think we've done 3 in the one in Wenatchee is going to be the 4th. I think. So I've done 3, have 2 more that are commitments for sure. I'm going to be adding a lot more. As it gets closer to summertime, that's when, you start doing a crazy amount of shows. I'll probably do like 70% of all the shows I do in the year in 2 months.
So I got a question that'll kind of loop back to all this, but
okay.
it's going to the library thing again.
Okay.
So all you need is this ISB number to get something into a library?
ISBN.
ISBN.
Technically, you don't need that.
Okay.
I could technically put Who Will Save the World in it, and they'll issue their own internal library number.
Okay. Can you do that for any public library?
Yes.
So what's to stop you from taking a book or 2 along these 7-hour drives and randomly finding a library somewhere hours away and dropping something?
The only thing that's keeping me from doing that is the time it would take to do it.
You build in an extra half hour, an hour to your
right.
long ass drive.
You know as well as I do, though, that when you drive these distances, even if you made plans to do stuff like that, generally all you want to do after the show ends is get home.
You do it on the way.
And it would be something doing these shows that I would probably honestly have to train you or Elias to be able to talk to libraries, because chances are by the time that show begins, the library hasn't opened yet. And when it ends, there's a good chance the library may already be closed. So I don't know that I personally would be able to go over there, but I would fully trust you if you knew the spiel.
Just seems like a good idea, especially if
it's an excellent idea.
If you would already talk to a library beforehand and be like, "We're coming through,"
and things like that, I used to do a lot more of back when Emily and Ty and Alan were always with me at shows. So the whole thing is most of these conventions that were the really small things, there was a comic shop in the area somewhere, right? So what would normally standardly happen when stuff like that happened is at some point, me and Ty or Emily and Alan or whoever would gather up, 5 copies of everyone's books and walk down to the comic shop and flip some copies to them while we were there. It got our books in more shops and got a little bit more traveling money in our pockets, So, yeah, doing stuff like that again is an excellent idea. But it would require that my convention helpers
and
help out with it.
Planning ahead for it.
It would also require planning ahead for it, yes.
I think if you can manage that, that seems like a good plan.
Mm-hmm. It does. Seems like a very good idea. So that brings up the question of, as one of my helpers, would you be willing to do that?
Depends on how far away it is. Like from when we get to somewhere. If if I gotta drive, if you drive 7 hours and I gotta go another 2 hours to get somewhere.
I wanted to see that would be the case. I mean, like, all the towns we go into have their own libraries. And
Yeah, I mean,
like
if it's a big enough city, they'll have a library.
yeah, they'll at least have a library.
Yeah, you'll track it down, and then you go in there.
Yeah, if they have nothing else at all, they will have a library.
And especially if you already have talked to someone at the library beforehand about it, then you can go in there, still give a little bit of a spiel, and then be like, here's your book or book.
That would be something I would like to do. I'd like to kick up the number of libraries I'm doing signings at, and I would also like to be making more connections with comic shops to try and have signings there. So at the moment, I feel like I have really good relations with like 3 shops. And I used to have quite a few more, but either the managers at those places moved on, the shop went out of business, changed locations, what have you. But I do need to be upping the amount of shops that I have good relationships with, because it would also be nice when we're going to places like, say, the beach. If we're going to show up on Friday, set up the show on Saturday, it might be nice to do a pre-signing at one of the local shops for an hour or 2 before the con, kind of get people interested in what you're going to have there. Because at a signing, even if they don't buy anything from you right there, they might at the show the next day,
Yeah.
So yeah, these are all really good ideas. They're ideas that we'll probably need to delve into next time, because we're about out of time.
Getting that low on time already?
Yeah, we're at 48 minutes right now, so after it's edited down, we'll be at probably just about 45. I'm not going to have to edit that much out of this one today.
Damn.
Yeah. And we usually keep ours right about 45 minutes.
Any random tidbits you want to throw in there at the end?
Random tidbits. Let's see. Such as?
I don't know. Any random little thing that you got going on, or...
We've covered most of what I have going on at the moment. I mean, Elbow Vine Morte continues to update on a steady schedule.
Oh.
I have all the pages. We already know that.
Sam? No.
No, Melissa.
Melissa, my bad. You know the one, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, her. You said she's drawn something, another one?
Yes, that's a full series of 4 different images.
Yeah, she has another one, though, that she's working on.
Yes, she is working on one of Lucy right now from Chronicles Van Helsing.
And that's the second one?
That is the second, yeah.
When's she going to be finished with that one?
I would say probably Tuesday.
Oh, so that can come up pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. It looks like the last in-progress shot she sent me looked like it was about 90% done.
Nice.
So, yeah.
She always has really good looking stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and Lucy looks amazing, so...
Cool. Look forward to it.
Yeah, I think that it works perfectly with the Melissa pinup. Both of them work very, very well, It's very sexy. I think they'll sell very well.
Nice.
Tony posted on the one of Melissa that he can't wait to see Lay Mime in a corset. And so I asked, are you talking about gender swapped or just like regular Lay Mime in a corset? And he's like, I'm just joking. Well, obviously, I knew he was just joking, but it does bring up the question. But it
sparked an idea for you?
Well, yeah, because I wanted to do one pinup for 4 different series, right? And I was like, I wonder if I should have her do a gender swap lay mime, a sexy female lay mime, and like a corset that's like black and white stripes. Would that be good? Would it be funny? I'd want it to be at least a little bit funny,
And she can the female lay mime can be smoking with one of those long stem things.
It could it could really work.
Yeah, you're on to something.
And I mean, if it doesn't work, it's okay because it's still a beautiful piece of artwork from Melissa. So
yeah.
So I mean, at the very least, the pieces. See, that's the thing. No matter what, it's going to look cool. So even if you see it and you're like, I don't like a female lay mime. It makes me feel uncomfortable and kind of weird. You're still going to like it because it's a beautiful piece of artwork,
Yeah. And it's just a funny thing to have.
Exactly. So, yeah. So she's almost finished with Lucy, and next up is one of the Principalities characters.
Nice.
And so we can talk more about whether or not I should have her do one of Lay Mime. So
it seems like a good idea
I think it does, too. Post it up and tag Tony in it.
This one's for you. She's blowing like a smoke heart with Tony written in it.
That might be going far. Too far.
No,
So,
that's cool.
Yeah, I finished up the script for EBM number 5. I actually finished writing it more than a year ago, but I finally finished typing it up since I discovered that I didn't have a typed version when I went to send it to Gabriel. Yeah, so I finished typing that up and sent it off. So I do believe that El Bovine Morte will stay on schedule for
foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think more than the foreseeable future. I mean, it's not going to have a ton of issues in total for the whole run, so it'll be able to stay on track.
So for the length of its life.
And yeah, who knows? It might have a slight derailment here or there, but I think for the most part, I think if I share up the amount of fill-in pinups I have and holiday pinups that I have, just in case I need to space something, so continue to get a few pieces here and there from various artists. I think it'll make sure that it doesn't fall off schedule again. I think it's actually going to stay on schedule until its natural conclusion.
Cool.
But at the moment, I have enough pages to last until July 11th. So
wow, that's a long ways out.
Yes, it is. So it's a good lead up. I don't think we'll have any problem getting issue number 5 by that point.
I sure hope not.
No, I don't think so. So we'll talk about that more next week. And I should have some convention announcements because I'm narrowing down the list. And I'll also be crossing those off that are already sold out. So
makes it easier.
Exactly. So until next week, you can find us on Facebook. We have fan pages for Darkslinger Comics, Ghost Assassin, and El Bovine Muerte. On Twitter, under Darkslinger Comics. Tumblr, Darkslinger Comics, and El Bovine Muerte. Instagram, under Darkslinger Comics. YouTube, Darkslinger0com. Google Plus, I believe Darkslinger Comics as well. If not Darkslinger Comics, just try Darkslinger. I'm Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
Thank you for listening.